Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Higher Moment Mastermind. I'm Shira Lotzar, happy to be your host today, joined by Vern Schellinger and Alki Thompson. We are here to support you in your job search. I think we have at least a couple new folks here today. So starting as of last meeting, we've shifted up our model a little bit. Normally, we used to do mostly just open Q&A, whatever questions you had, we would address. Now we've decided to expand, kind of what we're doing, and we're going to do part Q&A, part networking, but we're actually going to split people up. So you're going to have a choice to make in just a second. I'm going to be offering those of you who are interested in a breakout room to specifically do networking. You're welcome to do that. Vern is going to lead that. Eve is not able to join us today. And when you go into that room, if you choose to, then Vern will be sharing with you his signature teaching and giving way of sharing your about yourself and kind of who you are, but then also give you an opportunity to try it out, and then that'll also help you network with each other. For those of you who would rather stay in the main room with myself and Alki, we're going to do traditional open Q&A. So any job search question that you like, you are welcome to ask us, and we will be happy to try to address it. Okay, so again, what'll happen here in a second? Oh, we've got a couple more people coming in. Probably should have waited another minute or so here. All right, let me just let these folks trickle in.
Might be good for the new folks to know too that the type of networking we're talking about is career networking for your job search.
Exactly. Exactly right. All right. So again, I'm about to launch breakouts for those of you who would like to join the breakout room. You're going to be going with Vern, and you're going to be having a networking conversation. Those who would like to stay in the main room, it's just going to be an open Q&A for any job search question that you'll be addressing to me and Alki. Okay. So again, rooms are coming open. Choose to accept it or not. Completely up to you. All right. Here we go. I'll just give a minute here for those who'd like to join. And then everyone else, we will assume you are staying here with us. Okay. Great. Cool. All right. So for those of you who are remaining here, glad to have you. All right. So now again, this is open Q&A, and for me and Alki. So any job search question that's on your heart and mind, it could be anything. It actually could be networking too, but it could be about your search, your resume, your interviewing, your networking, whatever is top of mind. We are happy to address it. So who'd like to kick us off?
Hey, Shira, I'm wondering about my interviewing.
Mm,
I walk out of interviews not as confident as I used to years ago.
mm,
Uh, I mean, my most recent interview, I don't know how it went.
mm,
I know, so I know I didn't embarrass myself or shoot
mm,
myself in the foot,
mm.
but I also don't know if I did well or just did okay.
So let me say this about that, and I know Alki has what to say too. We're probably going to say the same thing. Quite literally, it's almost impossible to tell in both ways. Sometimes you can walk out of an interview feeling, oh my gosh, that was the best interview ever, and then not get the job. Sometimes you can walk out and go, I didn't really do so great, and then you get the job. It all depends on the interviewer. Gosh, their mood at the moment, right? They may be more expressive, less expressive. It could have to do with the competition, right? I always like to say that interviewing is the Olympics. Truly, by the time you make it to the interview stage, you are considered an Olympic athlete. You're qualified to be there, right? So who does the triple toe loop or the quad or points their toe or all those things? Really, it's down to that hairline. I mean, think about all the Olympic athletes. They're amazingly qualified, but it's that 0.002 distinguisher, and you don't know. You could have actually really done amazing, and then again, one person just did the triple toe loop, right? Or the other way around, you had a stoic interviewer who just didn't like to show their cards because they want to be neutral with all the candidates. And you don't know if you did well, but it may not have anything to do with anything. You might have done just perfectly fine. Does that make sense, Tim?
It does. I just years ago, I used to be able to walk out of an interview and say, "Yep, I'm moving on to round two,"
Sure.
or and now it's
I would just pack your patience with it and just try to take the emotion, like try not to it's hard to do that. Try not to second guess it. You did how you did. You're competing with whoever you're competing with. It's going to go how it's going to go. I wouldn't overanalyze it because again, even if you thought you did amazing, right? It's the Olympics, so you just don't know. So I would just say I did the very best I could, move on to the next thing, and then if you get called back, great. Alki, do you have what to share?
Yeah, I'll circle back to the years ago thing. Usually, I'm pretty witty on tying them together. With the Olympics, um, at least in the Olympics, you can sit there and wait and see your score.
Right.
And you also can see right in front of you how the other competitors did.
Sure.
You don't get that, especially nowadays, just to tie it into, back when. But that's one thing that's different is in the Olympics, you get to sit and watch all the other athletes. There's no secrets. They're not pulling anybody out of the corner. They don't have the Olympic Committee doesn't have an internal skater or whatever that they're bringing out that you never see. You get to see it play out right in front of you. You kind of know too if you missed a jump or missed a step. This is tough because the judges aren't giving you any feedback a lot of times. Sometimes they do. And some of you probably get feedback or you get nonverbal feedback during, sometimes you may get an email or a phone call back, but it's really different now. Before, also, it wasn't as many people competing.
Right.
There's way more people applying now. We're also in this crazy job market right now where employers are overwhelmed and a lot of them have just given up on courtesy and feedback or what you would call courtesy. I mean, I'm sure since I've been on the inside before, a lot of them don't have any hostilities. They just have different rules and time restrictions and all those things to be able to provide feedback. So with that being said, that's why I said a lot on this call and I say everywhere I can. If they ask, hey, what questions do you have for me?
Mm-hmm.
Use some of those questions to kind of ask, like, hey, when can I expect to hear something back? When do you think you'll be making a decision? Or when do you think you'll be making a decision on this round of interviews? When are you guys looking, like, what's your drop dead date that you can go with this seat unfilled before you guys are in urgency? Sometimes you can flat out ask. They may not tell you, but you can ask, hey, how many other candidates are there? You can ask questions like that. They may not tell you, but I'm just saying how to use your interview time and questions. There's a way you can get some feedback. Sometimes they might tell you, other times they may not. But if you don't ask, you'll never know. So I think in this age of low to no feedback, in every way that you can, whether it's after post interview and you're like, hey, thanks for the interview. You can ask some questions. Hey, how do you think I did? They may tell you, they may not. It doesn't hurt to try. So
Well, yeah,
better than not ask.
along those lines, you could actually ask them two versions of questions and say, what appealed to you about my candidacy? You can ask them straight out. What drew you to even interview me? Well, was it about my background or my experience that you think could actually be a good fit?
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, do you have any pink flags or hesitations about my candidacy or concerns that I can address right now? Right. I know we've had a short period of time together. Love to be able to address anything that's outstanding in your mind. So those are kind of sales questions, to what we call closing questions, to make sure to help the employer actually make a decision. I would like to springboard off of this, Tim, and it would be okay, everybody, if we kind of spend a little time on interviewing. Would that be all right? Get some head nods. Okay. Oh yeah, Alki.
What you reminded me of one other one. And yours were great, and it prompted me to take it all the way to the beginning, especially if they're like, hey, what questions do you have for us?
Mm-hmm.
What are the top things you're looking for in this role? What are your top expectations? Who are you all hoping to hire? Who's the ideal candidate for this role? All of those questions. Why is the position vacant? And that may also open up what they're looking for, because they may tell you, yeah, before we had this person, but now we're looking to go in this direction. There's a lot of questions that you can ask that can get them to unveil what they're looking for, which might let you know too, oh, I got that. I got that. Or on my next interview, I want to make sure I highlight this and that.
So thanks for that, Alki. And I think it's a really good springboard to talk about both the kinds of questions that you could and maybe should be asking, and also the way that you prepare. So I'm going to slow it down here. We're going to actually, right? It's okay to like spend some time on this. Okay. Really important conversation. So let's take it all the way back, as Alki said to the beginning. I'd like to take it from the employer's perspective. You know, there are two sides to this equation, your side, their side. You're both equal. I know it feels like it's a little bit, mismatched, but truly it is you are equal here. But I need to bring you to the employer side because from their perspective, they have one major objective. And the one major objective is they want to know, can you help advance their business challenges? Sit with that. Really sit with that. That's why they're hiring you. They don't hire you for their health. They don't hire you to put food on your table, although hopefully they will. But that's not why they're hiring. I know I'm a recruiter. Alki's a recruiter. We do this all the time. When we talk to an employer and they give us a job opening, they don't have a person in mind. They don't know who's going to fill the job. They have a job description. They have business challenges. They have organizational needs. They say, well, we need a full-time person because we have that much work to do in this department, in this role, for somebody to help us fix certain problems. That's all they're thinking about. Number one, most important thing. Number two, will we like the person we're going to be hiring? Will they fit into the family, fit into the culture, all the things? Can we afford the person? See where I'm going here, right? Will the first person have a good commute? All the things, all the things. But the most important thing to them, first and foremost, is will they help us achieve our goals? If you can prepare yourself in the interview to think from their perspective, you are going to increase your chances of success by at least 50%, at least maybe 75. Why I'm saying it that way, everyone, is because it's not about you. In this case, it's about them. Now, it is about you and that you are the other side of the equation and what you care about is important. Your career goals are important. Your all the absolutely. I'm just not addressing your side right now. I'm just addressing their side. Does that make sense? Okay, you are just as important. But from in terms of succeeding in an interview, this is who I want to focus on because we don't normally do that. Normally, what we do is an interview prep, and what do we tell you to do? Okay, come up with your star stories, your cab stories, your right. Once upon a time, I did these wonderful things. The only thing about that is, and that's fine, you should be preparing your stories. However, your stories, how you prepare, what you share, has to be relevant to that employer for that specific job. It's not enough to just have 5 pen stories. Hey, I'm just going to like whip out whatever. When they ask me a question, I'm going to talk about, no, everything you say has got to be on point, on point. So going back to the Olympics, I just happen to like the ice skating thing, there's different kinds of skating, right? There's the solo, there's the couple, there's the dancing, there's certain rules that apply. You can't just be a good ice skater. No, you have to like actually do the technical side the way they want you to do it. Otherwise, you're going to get dinged. You can't just be a good ice skater. You can't just have great stories. They have to be directly aligned. So what you do here is, yes, you do prepare your stories and think about it. However, when you're preparing, one of the things you need to do is go through that job description line by line and word for word. Analyze it, really analyze it. Don't gloss over it. And by the way, I'm speaking from experience here. You have to understand, I'm saying this so slowly and clearly because I have coached so many people who don't do it this way. That's why I'm being so intentional of how I'm saying this. Don't gloss over it. Don't have a halo effect and go, oh, bullet number 5, that's my job. I love bullet number 5. And then you're glossing over 1, 3, 7, 9, and 12 and the summary and all the things that they really want you to do. You're not really seeing what they need. If you really spend time pulling this job description apart and going, who do they need me to be here? Let me analyze the verbs that they're using. Do they use words like, I want you to, they say it in the job description, build and develop or build and create or something. That they use the term build, that means they're probably a hot mess in that area. They don't have the thing that they need you to do. Build it, develop it, design it, those kinds of words, they don't have it. Now, yesterday I was coaching somebody and the bullet said shape and refine, da 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 da. Well, that's different than build. They actually have a pretty decent program, but they want this person to, just mold a little bit. And she knew that. She knows this organization. My client knows this organization is actually very good, but they need someone to, kind of do some TLC. Really, really read it. And then say, what kinds of accomplishment stories do I have that actually will address the very specific strategic challenges that they're facing? Can I help them advance their goals the way that they wrote it? You've got to speak into what they want, not what they don't. In sales, we have to do this all the time, myself and Alki, because we're in business for ourselves and we always have to sell ourselves. And so if an employer is coming to us and saying, hey, can you do this search or whatever they're hiring us for, we're going to be, if they need examples from us, we're going to be specific to address the kind of experience that we have that relates to the kind of work they want us to do. It's the same thing with you. So that's number one, is making sure that you've really, really digested the job announcement. Number two, really get this organization. And I don't just mean a cursory review of their website. Dive into that website. Use AI. This is a beautiful time to do it, really. I mean, I'm so glad we have this tool now. I mean, throw everything into AI, do prompts with it, throw in the website, throw in LinkedIn profiles of people, ask AI to do quote unquote deep research on this organization, on the sector. What are the challenges that they're facing? And then even in the job description, hey, based on this job description, based on the organization, based on the research, what kinds of challenges do I anticipate they are facing that I can help them solve? Actually use the tool to inform you about how you want to present yourself and the kinds, to the earlier question, the kinds of questions you want to ask, right? Yes, of course, process questions are great. When are you hiring and all these things? Absolutely do that. And total and. So given, and then you can frame it this way. Given my research on this organization, on the sector, on the role, given da 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 da, like you mentioned some facts or some things you researched, given dot dot dot. So I noticed in the job description can you share with me more about how this part of the role relates to where you are organizationally? What kinds of initiatives are you going to be asking me to do? What are some of the challenges I'm going to be facing? What are your expectations in the first year? How will you know I'm successful at the end of the first year? These kinds of things. Does that make sense? Be in the role. Be in the role. This isn't just about you. Yes, of course, it's great to know the hiring process and all these things, right? But really, the questions they need you to ask are the ones that are going to show them that you get it, that you're interested, you're curious, you're a critical thinker. And by the way, that means at any level. I don't care whether you're an administrative assistant or the CEO, it does not matter. Every single person makes a contribution. Everybody's there to advance the organizational mission. Whatever your role is, be as strategic as you can be to say, hey, what are some of the, obstacles that you're facing in light of the research that I did? If you show them that you have done your homework, they're going to go, whoa. I coached somebody else the other day, and her name was Christine. It was really funny. I told her to do this, right? She gets into the interview, and she's in a lobbying kind of a role. So they're like all about issues, right? And she mentioned to the CEO, she goes, yeah, I'm wondering what you're doing about the blah, blah, blah issue, some very specific niche. And he looked at he's like, you know about that? She's like, yes, I do, blah, 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 blah. He was so impressed that she had taken the time to really dig in and figure out what was going on with them, and then ask a critical question so that she got, that she knows what she's talking about. She's done her homework. Does this make sense? You've really, really, really got to own the role, own the sector, own it all. Pretend it's your first day on the job. Pretend it's your first week or first month on the job. Are you part of the family? Can they see and vision you there? But in order to do that, you gotta do your homework. Making sense? Okay, Monica.
I was just, I think you answered my question because, you almost everyone says that, one of your closing questions should be how will you measure success for this role in the first 90 days, first year, blah, blah, blah. But my question was, like, let's say an organization has a strategic plan or a new strategic plan, you could read it, analyze it, how it fits with the role you're interviewing for. And so, my understanding of what you're saying would be to mention earlier in the interview that you've read the strategic plan and you want to know how.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
these questions that I'm sharing. Thank you for that, Monica. And I'm going to give you another metaphor. Yeah, this is not an end of interview kind of thing. Now, I understand some interviewers are more formal than others. Sometimes they just ask this question, and they leave 10 minutes, or there's a panel interview and everybody's asking I mean, there's only so much you can do. However, I do want to give you one of my little metaphors here that I've mentioned before. You want to play a game of tennis, not racquetball. Tennis, not racquetball. Racquetball interviews, which are kind of pretty common, are where they've got the ball, right? You're the wall. Boom, boom, boom. Q, A, Q, A, Q, A. It's very rote. It's like, all right, I'm going to be a good little candidate. Answer the question, answer the question. Oh, by the way, for the last 10 minutes, you can ask some questions. Try gently, don't force it, try gently to make it a game of tennis. They cue you A, but while you kind of have the ball, you're thinking about a question for them. Maybe it's a follow on to the question that they just asked. Because remember, they're not asking these questions for their health. They didn't just randomly come up with a question. All of the questions are intentional to see whether you're going to be a good fit. Sometimes it has to do with some new initiatives that they have. Sometimes it has to do with the incumbent that they're not talking about. Maybe that incumbent didn't leave things in such a great place, and they're going to make sure that you're not going to do the same thing, right? Whatever it is, they're asking for a reason. Listen to the question. They're not just opening an interview book saying, I'm going to pick question number two. No, they actually want to know, are you qualified? Your knowledge, your skills, your abilities, your culture fit, all these things. So you can follow up and say, well, it's really interesting you asked me that question. Because in my research, I figured out, and I'm wondering, da, 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 da. And you can literally turn it into a sometimes. Now, again, not all the time. Sometimes it's very rigid and it is what it is. But to the extent that you feel like, no, I think that there actually can be some flow here, right? Particularly when it's just a one-on-one, and they're not just, so standardized, try to take the liberty of engaging them in a back and a forth, if that helps. Alki, finisher.
Yeah, all of that was really good. Several things went through my head. There's one metaphor I may come back to as well, but peeling the onion back a little bit, let me just say some qualifiers. One being a lot of this you all know. Um, some of you on this call have been hiring managers before. So you've sat across the table.
Right.
You know what you were looking for. You know what the department was looking for.
Right.
You knew when you wanted to pay more and the budget said no, and you fought and you scratched to get more money and the budget for that position, but you couldn't. And when you couldn't, you knew what that did to your recruiting. You knew that cut out certain types of candidates, all these things. If you've ever been a manager before, probably you've used it as a candidate. But or if you've been a part of an interview team, if you sat on a panel and they pulled you from the department, you know what it's like to be on the other side of the table. So that's a lot of what Shira just said, is putting yourself in their shoes and not just candidate only, which we get because you're the one looking for your next opportunity. You might need an opportunity. You might need money right now, all these different types of things. You've been on the other side of the table, some of you. The one of the other things I want to say before I get to my metaphor is there's also different people at different stages of the interviewing. There's the internal recruiter. How does that first call go, or what role does that person play? There's the headhunter like Shira and I, who are external recruiters who are probably more strategic in our recruitment. There's a HR person, whether it's a specialist or an HR director. There's the hiring manager. There's the panel. There's somebody from the department. There's the VP. There's the chief level. All these different level of interviews, and it's almost like every round you go through, just like the Olympics, you may have to do something to qualify, but then after that, you have to change your game. You have to change your choreography to match whatever that round is and whatever they're asking, which brings me to my metaphor of you can run in 7-Eleven for a stick of gum. Chances are you're not going to ask the person behind the counter, hey, where is this gum imported from? Okay. When did you get it? How long have you had it on the shelf? You're not going to really do that for a stick of gum, but you'll ask those types of questions for a big purchase like a home investment, marriage relationship, things of that nature. We're not talking about just scrolling online and blindly applying for jobs. We're talking about, and this is a less than ideal market too, so we get it. There's, it's not an ideal market, but this we're talking about strategic, like we do strategic recruitment and search. We're talking about the flip side of that, strategic job search for you. For those of you who are not just looking for any job or any position, you're looking for something in your field, your arena. Even if you're changing careers, we're talking about taking it seriously. She mentioned homework. There's homework to do if you want to place gold,
That's right.
silver, yada
That's
yada.
right. If you're
If you're
really
just happy to
interested,
compete,
yeah.
that's a different thing. But if you're trying to place gold or silver, or at least make it to the platform or be in contention, just like Olympians, this is the hard work, dedication, year-round, weeks, months of you doing the type of homework that it takes to at least give yourself a chance. Now, are the judges that we talk about, are they always fair? No. And it almost made me want to say another word before the no, heck no, or whatever you want to call it, because we've sat in conversations and watched them say things that shock us, like, what? You can't pay that person that, or you can't move that candidate ahead of that other candidate just because you like the way they talked, or some other reason. So it's not always fair. But you give yourself the best chance by doing homework and also taking your career seriously, your industry seriously. We're not just talking about sitting down and making up a list of questions. For those of you who are staying in your industry or your field and looking for roles there, your field, you're experts, so you can talk shop with these people when you go in the interview. It's not just, are you guys having a great day? And what are you looking for in the first 90 days? Apply it to what these things come naturally to you. What do you guys, I see you guys are upgrading to a whole new system, and that's what you're looking for this person to do, right? Well, I just did that in my last role. We just upgraded a whole new system. We use that system, blah, 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 blah. And in my closing, I'll say it's those people when they're sitting at the table, like Shira said, and they feel like during an interview, they're like, wow, it seems like you've been working with us for the last 2 years. You know our business. You know what we're talking about.
That's right.
You would come right in and be an easy fit and transition.
Slide in.
That's who they want usually the most. Other times they want to disrupt it. They want to go in a totally different direction. And those are the questions like, hey, you had the last person for 12 years, right? You're making a change now. Are you looking for anything different? Are you guys heading in the same direction? Do you want someone who can bring you up to date? There's so many questions that are relevant to what they're looking for. And you make them feel like, wow, you know our business. You could be a fit.
That's exactly right. And that takes homework and that takes intentionality. And I'm telling you, anytime you can, so to speak, personalize this interview, personalized meaning not make it personal to them necessarily, but where you can show that you care and you are a critical thinker and you've done your homework. Really, they're so impressed. Otherwise, you're just going to sound like everybody else. Yes, I can do the job. Here my experience. No, they're not. It's like it's okay. We are me and Alki with our metaphors. It's like dating. Okay. You're not just a person and they're not just a person. You're trying to see if you're actually compatible. So the more you can ask questions about that person and understand them and then relate to them and bond and all the things, that's where you're going to feel the synergies. And that's what they're looking for. Do you synergize with us? Do you care about us? Do you want this role? So when people ask you in the opening question, if they do, tell me about yourself. I know nobody likes that question. However, what they're actually listening for are three things. Why you? Why us? Why now? Why you? Why us? Why now? Or why us? Why you? Why now? Whatever it is, but it's those three things because the why us is, do you want this job, this organization, this sector? Are we your fit? Why you? Are you qualified? Are you interested? Is this a good fit for you? Are you going to not be a flight risk, right? Are you going to want to stay here for a decent amount of time? And the why now could be, well, why is this the right time in your career to be addressing this role? Like, why does this fit for you? That makes sense? So hopefully it's good for us to have dove into this a little bit, because interviewing is just so incredibly important. By the time you get to the interview, right, you want to knock it out of the park. And the competition really is stiff. And employers, we always say this, they're always wanting to minimize their risk, which means they want the best fit possible. And to be the best fit possible, you've got to show them you're capable. You got to show them you're curious. You got to show them you're strategic to whatever extent you can, that you're going to be a good culture fit, all the things. There's so many things on their side, just like there's a lot of things on your side too. Fair?
Yep. Hey, Shira, I
Yeah.
need to ask you this weird question because I had my last interview was a government interview. They got done. He said, okay, let me take a look. Yeah, we covered pretty much everything in your resume, but hey, if we had let me ask you this question. If we had a budget shortfall with payroll, how would you approach that?
Mm-hmm.
He went off script.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That at worst, that's a neutral question. But the first thing I did was I asked him, well, and this is a government question. You may not understand this, but
Mm-hmm.
can you move non-pay into pay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and then I answered, he answered, then I answered the question, but I was really surprised. In a government interview, they went off script.
Okay, so that's a government interview. So for private side, I can't speak to I'm not a govy person, but you're right. Government typically is straight. But I'm going to say for everybody, especially private sector, they absolutely may go off script. But actually, Tim, what you're talking about is something else we should probably address. We don't normally hear the difference between what we call behavioral interview questions and situational questions. Behavioral interview questions are path-based, rear view mirror. What have you done? And who have you been while you were doing it? Situational is, what would you do if? The what would you do if questions, the future stuff, which you can't prepare for necessarily, right? I mean, you can try when you're reading the job description. That's hard, right? Because you don't know the specific things. So clearly he's got a pain point with that if he's asking you that question. Your job is actually to do, Tim, what you did. Ask more questions before you answer. Do not ever just say, oh, well, I would do blah, blah, blah. No, you don't know enough. You don't know enough. They ask you a situational question. You go, that's an excellent question. Would it be okay if I ask you a few clarifying questions, contextual questions, just to make sure I understand, right, what the context, and then ba, 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 ba. You can ask 1, 2, 3 questions, whatever. Don't ask 10, but like ask a couple, 3 questions to sort of say, well, what about then? Do you have you this? And can I this? And then say, okay, well, given what you just said, I might approach it this way. In fact, you could even say, look, I might have 2 or 3 ways of approaching it. I might approach it this way, given the variables you just gave me. And here's why. Explain your reasoning. Everybody wants to know how you think. It's not just about what you do, it's about why you do what you do. Well, I might approach it this way because of the. Now, that said, I might also approach it this way because given these variables and this risk and I might even go a third way, depending upon, does that make sense? Depending on this, depending on this. And now they're getting, oh, they're a critical thinker. Got it. They're not just going to like go knee jerk and be a bull in a china shop. The person's going to be thoughtful, ask questions, talk to stakeholders, balance competing values, whatever. Does this make sense? Like offer things, but ask the questions and give the why of your rationale. It's kind of like, what are they in math, in old math class in high school, right? It wasn't just get the right answer, explain your work, show your work. How did you get there? That's actually what they were grading you on.
I was shaking my head up and down till I was almost dizzy because I'm sitting here going, now we're talking. Now we're talking. Forget interviews. Forget that. Forget that word. You want conversations.
Mm-hmm.
You want conversations. What you two were just talking about, I mean, I've done this a million times as a recruiter, but in my head, I'm like, yep, this just switched from an interview to a conversation to potentially the first meeting that you would have with this person, your Monday meeting or your Wednesday meeting or whatever, which is what you want. You want to come into every interview. The first interview is really just a meet and greet, so don't overdo it. You know, if they tell you it's going to be about 15 or 20 minutes, there's a way to prepare for that because it's just a meet and greet. Afterwards is when they start digging into the things. That kind of a question, by the way, for the government right now, I think a lot of us can understand what happens if the money's, what happens if there's a shutdown or anything like that. So with the government, we all get that right about now, how that could apply, because they typically just go boom, 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 boom a lot of times with their question, their Q&A. But you want a conversation. You want them asking those types of questions where you're like, you got me. That's good. You know what? That's a good question. Like Shira said, just treat it natural like you would your cousin, your neighbor. You know what? I haven't thought about that before. Depending on how they're presenting, though, if they're very robotic, straight face, which is hard to tell, it's not always easy to connect with those people. I always tell candidates to read the room and try to give off the same energy and the same vibe. But if those types of questions are coming and you're comfortable, now you're having a real conversation. When you're going off script, I don't want to say there's any guarantees here, but to Shira's point, that's when they're really saying, okay, I think we're okay on you being qualified. Now let's start talking about some situations because either we have a situation or we've got you and another candidate and we can't really decide, but you tend to be the one who can probably think us through this next situation we're about to deal with in the next year or this growth that we're doing. And so that's the conversation time. It can also be tricky. It can also be a hidden landmine as well, because if you overtalk or overspeak, or if you go too far off script. So it's really all about being natural and organic in the conversation, hopefully. And you can always control that. But if they open with questions like that, now you're playing tennis. Now you're doing backhands and serves and drop shots and touch shots and all those types of things. And that's what you want. You want a game of tennis and a great volley as opposed to just hitting the ball against the wall off your forehead over and over again.
And Aaron, we see your hand. And when you are offering ideas, for example, right, you want to do you want to be what I call confidently humble, both confident, like, hey, I know what I'm talking about, but humble, not presumptuous, anytime you share any idea about how you might handle anything, look, given the information that I have, here's how I might approach it, that kind of thing. Always go with humility, right? Aaron.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. I really appreciate this conversation, and I love all the metaphors about Olympics and tennis and dating and all that. Um, I have a couple questions about interviews. I had an interview on Monday, thankfully. We'll see what happens. And it's the third time it's happened to me that it's the initial conversation with HR or a recruiter, and they say like, "Oh, it's just a meet and greet or just to get to know you," and it turns into either a full-fledged behavioral competency-based interview or they get into that. So I'm like, okay, Aaron, that's the third time. Like next time, I don't care what they say. I'm preparing for the full-on deal.
100%.
So two questions. One is, I know there's no way to predict what they'll ask, but I'm wondering like how many star stories or, there's tons of questions out there, like how to narrow it down, which questions to prepare stories for. That's one question. And my second question is I've been trying to really push myself to do networking. So I did manage to find two colleagues to recommend me, one of whom works in the company and is fairly senior, who passed along my resume with her recommendation, and another person through, a friend of a friend. And I'm wondering, like, is two good? Is it like as many, if I could get 10, is it at a certain point, is it overkill? Or if I could get
So let me answer that
third?
real quickly.
Thank you.
No such thing as overkill in this. No. If you get 150 people to recommend you, get them to recommend you. They'll be like, okay, but they're in a fine, we'll interview her. No, always.
Yeah.
Just because it's a good thing because multiple referral says something. But number two, you never know whose referral is actually going to make it to the hiring manager. One person could try, but depends on their relationship. And is that person going to actually move the ball over? There's too many variables. So go for it. The other, Elkie, unless you have a different opinion on that.
Oh, what's that?
Do you have a different opinion on that? My opinion is get as many people to refer you for the job as possible.
Oh yeah, a million. And if you can, if you can get
Right.
somebody high up or a celebrity or
Anybody,
whoever,
anybody do it. Yes. Okay.
Thank you. That's
There's that.
helpful.
The other thing about preparing for interview questions, you're not going to know what was meaning, what star stories should you prepare, goes back to the job announcement. Analyze, analyze, analyze. On at least two levels. The knowledge part, what do they need you to know? I would say okay, there's the knowledge, skills, and abilities, KSAs. The knowledge and skills, functionally or subject matter wise, what do they need you to know? Skill wise, functional skill, hard skill, what do they need you to be able to do? And then the abilities, who do they need you to be? Really, really read it. And I know all of these job descriptions seem like they're one, they're all written in the same language, but somebody actually took the time to put pen to paper. Again, go into the verbs, read the sentence structure. What did they say? How did they say it? How do they frame? Gosh, sometimes, in job announcements, they'll have these different sections and they'll say responsibilities, section 1, section 2, section 3. What do they put first? What do they put second? What do they put third? That can tell you something too in terms of what's top of mind. Read the summary. What are they really getting after in this role? Then you say, okay, well, if they're looking for someone to do A, B, C, and this is their situation, which star stories are most appropriate? And another way you can do it is quite linearly. Let's just say there's 10 responsibility bullets. Go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Bullet 1, do I have a story for this? Bullet 2, do I have a story for, quite literally do it that way. That's an easy way. And then you can kind of narrow it down and clump things if you need to, but then at least and then the other thing that'll tell you, Erin, is wait a second. I don't have a story for bullet number 7. Why is that? Do I not have the experience? Or do they frame it in a different way I've never done before? I didn't even notice bullet number 7. You will find that out when you look at it. Everybody does, like, I didn't even notice that thing. When you slow it down, that'll help you really, really see to the extent that you're qualified. Now, nobody's usually perfectly qualified. There's always something. But if there is a something or two somethings that you're not aligned, note it, potentially address it. And I would address it in the interview in some way to say, look, I noticed, one of your bullets, you asked for ABC skills. How important is that for me to know coming into the role in terms of a learning curve? Is that something I could learn on the job? I'm certainly interested in it. I have maybe some exposure to it, or maybe not an exposure. That's just has not really been part of my background. Is that okay? Are you comfortable with a learning curve? So address it. Besides which, it's for your sake too. If you don't address it and you get into the job and it's 50% of the job and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not being set up for success here. Should have asked the question. See, it's not just getting the paycheck. You've got to make sure that it's as aligned as possible and that there's truth in advertising. That if you don't know something, they know that you don't know it. They're okay with the fact that you don't know it, and they're willing to let you have a learning curve. Make sense? Just some marriage here. This is not just like, oh, a quick gig and I'm going to get a couple $1,000s and we're off. No, this is supposed to be a long-term fit. You've got to really, really ask good questions for yourself to see if it's the right short and long-term fit.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. Other questions? And we don't have to keep talking about interviewing, although it's a good topic. Karen, do you have any questions? Anything top of mind for you right now?
Karen has many questions.
Karen always has a lot of questions. But that was great. No, I'm thinking also that was great feedback for the interviews.
Did you relate to it in a particular way? Did something make you go, aha?
Switching of coming to the interview, and I've learned this from you, being ready to solve their problems or tell them that you can, instead of, oh, I'm a great candidate. I could fit, like, which I think is, what I used to think. But I think the shift is, how are you going to help them? They need a problem to solve. This is what you always say. So you both say this. So that's been it's been a good shift for me. And I had a couple of interviews recently, and in my first interview, I could kind of pick up where she was going. So by the end of an interview, I kind of reinstated how I can help with that, because it wasn't so. I realized at the end of the interview, I had not focused on that so much. But by the end, I'm like, I can, and then for the second interview, I could have a better story for that. But we'll see. You never know. They could ghost me tomorrow, so you never know.
You don't know. But I think at the end of the day, if you keep a very balanced perspective, yes, you have questions you need to get answered. Is this the right culture fit and all the things? Yes, yes, yes. And are you right for them?
Yeah.
Keep it balanced. Too many job seekers make it very lopsided. Like, I just want the job. I just want the job. Wait, do you actually? Do you actually? Do you know what you're getting into? What they actually want you to do? This is a job. It's work. It's not play. I mean, hopefully you all fun at it, but it's work. There are challenges that need to be overcome. So what questions can you ask them to understand more about their specific situation? Bring to bear your experience, be strategic, all these things. Really, really helpful. Just get up in it and like show them that you're part of the family already. If you even want to be part of the family. Yeah. Demola, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
You are. I wanted to ask, I have a somewhat gap in my years, but I've been working on other stuff in between. Um, is there, if I ask questions like you guys described, like talk about like how my skills can fit here, what I can do to advance, would that help with like bridging the gap, so to speak? Or
Possibly. Those might be two different scenarios. Um, all right. So at the end of the day, regardless of your background and experience, again, they are looking for you to check certain boxes. So putting your background aside, if you just focus squarely on the employer and say, okay, how can I help these people? What skills do I have? What interests do I have? What continuing education am I pursuing? Sometimes that's important too when you're dealing with a gap of an experience. And if you can say legitimately, look, I've been taking courses, I've been doing this and that, I'm leveling up my skills. Hey, I'm really curious about this. I'm really interested in the thing that you're doing. You show curiosity, you show insight, you show that you care. That can often go a long way to overcoming a lot of objections, not just a gap in employment. Alki, thoughts?
Yeah, it's ironically enough, we might actually need to do a whole session on vulnerabilities, objections, gaps, like all the scary things that happen in interviews and resumes and all of those things. Because the gap, which I was sitting here thinking of, not a metaphor, but I was thinking, now we talk about gaps so much. I was trying to think of something that goes with, we're going back to the gap, everybody, because we talk about it so much. But yeah, I think what you said covers it. Filling that space. I mean, life happens, number one. So there's some employers who get it and they're like, yep, we get life. We get life happens. But to Shira's point, hey, we're not here to talk about your life and what you've been doing for the last 6 years and where you've been and all your travels, unless it's very relevant to what we're looking for right now. Unless you can help us right now, your gap could be a problem. And so it's something to think about. Everyone on the call, is it a 1 year gap, a 6 month gap, 5 years, 4 years? It means different things in different industries to different employers. I was just sitting here thinking while you all were talking, not a plumber, but I was in a meeting yesterday and they were talking about switching out a stove. So whatever, a stove technician or mechanic. If you have a stove from 1980, and there's someone who's from that era and says, "Oh yeah, I've been in retirement for 15 years, but what kind of stove you got? Oh, you bought it in the 80s? I can fix that." Well, if it's a new 2026 with all the buttons and the dials, and you can talk to it and it's got AI, and you have some guy who hasn't worked since the 80s, that might not be that's not the most relevant person they need. That's not the most relevant technician unless they've spent the last 5 years getting a certification, getting a license, getting practice, getting actual hands-on work on that particular device. This is how employers view it. This is how they view gaps. Another way they view gaps is, what have you been doing this whole time? We've all been working. How did you not work for 5 years? Some of them can't get that out of their mind. They're stuck on that no matter what you tell them. I've been there, I've done it, I've advocated for people who had COVID, who had parents pass away, who had to do all kinds of things, who had to relocate because of their spouse, and it took them 2 or 3 years to get the kids settled and all of that. And they had all the degrees and all the engineering experience, and they still couldn't get around the gap. Gaps are one of the scariest things to employers that they ever see. So you have to figure out how to calm and quell those gaps where you can. Then there's some employers you just have to go, okay, I get it. You're just not going to hire me. You can't get past that gap. So anything that you can do in that time, which also ties back to the question we were talking about before, is, like, hey, I haven't done that before, but guess what? That's why this opportunity appeals to me, because I was actually looking for an opportunity to do more of this. Those are ways that you can make it relevant to what they do, because now they see you as, oh, so you actually have a passion for this, you actually have a desire, or you've reached the plateau of your level, your career. You're looking for advancement. We can offer you advancement. Come on over here and do it with us. So there's ways to navigate objections that not just get you out of hot water, but speaks to their business need.
So many things. Thank you, Alki. That's great. So Vern, I know you guys had a good networking session. I'm sure you did. You want to reflect out what you guys talked about? Any notable notes, quotable quotes, anything that was worthy of sharing for the group?
Well, the one competency we really focused on was one we call communicate your expertise. So, and two skills, one of which is how do you answer the what do you do question? So everybody wrote their response to that, and I was able to give them some feedback and tighten it. And so for first time around, people, did a pretty good job on that. And again, this goes back to teaching and giving. So anytime you're in a conversation, you have the opportunity potentially to teach somebody about yourself. And obviously that's what you're doing in the job search. Every person you're meeting with, you're teaching them about who you are, what you do, why you do it, examples of how well you do it. And then the second skill is actually, this really is more in a networking situation, you can tell a story. If somebody says, well, tell me more about, how you do that, you can create a story, which is, maybe a minute long versus, answering the what do you do question is 10 seconds, 15 seconds. And so the story formula is the same formula that hopefully everybody, or similar formula to what everybody's using when you get the question in an interview that says, tell me about a time when. So we just say, there's a segue to the story, there's describing the situation, describing the problem, what did you do to, solve the problem, and what were the outcomes? So we call it segue, situation, significant, snafu, what's the problem, what's the solution, and then what was the significance of what you did, the outcome. So those were the two things that we focused on. Joshua had a good question at the end of the session. He's meeting with a more senior person within his organization, and it's an informational interview about, how do I move up within the organization? What are the types of things that I should be doing if I want to, work within the organization and move up into a higher level? and making sure that, he's thinking of some good questions for this more senior person. So,
Great.
yeah.
And reflections from the folks who were in the networking room? So things you learned, aha moments you had?
Yeah, Vern, thanks for sharing the 2 sentence thing
Yeah.
to say, because I had another networking call a couple days ago, and I realized I didn't do that, and midway through I had to say, oh, by the way, I should tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm a little new to all this, but or coming back around, I should say. So yeah, thank you, Vern. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
One other thing I learned was, that tell me what you do type of thing um, is different than tell me about what yourself, right? Because initially I was like, okay, it sounds like the first interview question you usually get. And the difference is tell me about yourself is much broader. um, Situation about actually addressing their top two, three bullets or requirements in the job description and how you've done it. So that was a little thing that I've learned also.
And for me, I'm very grateful, Vern, for your time. I like the little reminders that, it's kind of like we're always looking to when you're networking, it's not always about what you want. You have to focus on the other person, what they want. Number one. I also like the iceberg, a reminder. You don't know who you're talking to. You don't know who your audience is, especially at the beginning. It's kind of like take this is an opportunity, and how can you learn more about that person so that in some small way you can try to give back. So thank you.
Yeah, and the iceberg analogy is real simple. We all know that when an iceberg, the biggest part of the iceberg is below the waterline. And so the analogy is when, Shira and I first meet, I get to know a little bit about Shira, but I'm above the waterline. And the more conversations that Shira and I have, and the more we get to know each other, we get below the waterline. And the more we learn about someone, the greater likelihood we can give back to them in some way. So again, especially in the job search, it's such a difficult process. When you can give back to other people who have helped you, they recognize that, and they see that, you're willing to, give back to them in some small way. Maybe it's send them an article. Maybe it's introduce them to someone in your network. Maybe it's recommend somebody for another job that they have in their organization. Whatever the give is, the gives can be fairly simple. The biggest give somebody can give you is, Mike, there's an open position at ABC company, and I happen to know the hiring manager, and I'm going to introduce you to the hiring manager. That's a give from your network, but that person's got to know you really well and make sure you're matching up with exactly what that job is asking for.
All right, good. Well, I hope everybody had a good experience with us today. I'm going to put a couple things in the chat, things that I keep forgetting to do. So the first one is a page on my website for the videos of this call. We've been doing this, for those of you who don't know, we've been doing this since the beginning of COVID. It's a long time now. And basically everything that we've ever had is there, so you can have bedtime watching if you like. And excuse me, I didn't put on last sessions, but I'll do that soon. And then the other thing I want to share is the networking sheet, which we started a while back. I just keep forgetting to populate it or put it in the chat. If you would like to put your contact information in this sheet so that you can network with other people, you are certainly welcome to do that. I'll try to remember. And Vernon, Alki, if you can remind me too, you're welcome to grab it too. So one of us, hopefully every time, we'll stick it in the chat. All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up the formal part of our meeting. For those of you who'd like to stay on for a short prayer call, I will be leading you in that as well. And wish everybody a blessed Easter and look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Okay. Take care, everybody.